Joining us on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line, I believe from Jaguars camp, is none other than our friend Rap Sheet himself from the NFL Media Group, Ian Rapoport. How you doing, Ian?
What's going on, Rich? How are you?
What's going on there? Are they fired up about Javon Walker? They made the right choice in their minds, and they see Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer's not the coach anymore? I mean, walk me through
what's
there.
Urban Meyer isn't here. Yeah, it's interesting. That hasn't come up in any of my conversations today. Not a lot of people are saying anything like, man, can you believe that we had Urban Meyer and it was such a disaster? Like, definitely has not come up with every single person I've spoken with today.
Is your tongue firmly planted in cheek there, Ian? Or is that what it is, or what?
It is funny that, like, this is, I've talked to a bunch of coaches here, as I tend to do when I go to these places, and
right.
like, it's a staff of really like good dudes, right? Like Doug Peterson is great, Press Taylor is great. I spoke to both those guys. Very different from the Urban Meyer regime. A couple of players I've talked to are like, whew, a little different, And I think, like, you don't have to – coaches are not always nice to everyone, and I think that's okay. You can coach really hard. You can coach beyond hard and still get success. The biggest takeaway, like, kind of looking back on the Urban Meyer thing, is there was not a lot of coaching that went on here last year. Like, I have no idea what Trevor Lawrence is going to be. But I don't know if we can judge anything from last year because he just really wasn't coached well. And that kind of sucks. But I think it's going to be better this year. And, the offense is interesting. Trayvon Walker does seem to be the real deal. The defense was really good the other night. There's some things going on here. There's some things, Rich.
There's some things going on in Jacksonville. That's the headline from Ian Rapoport here on the Rich Eisen Show. What is going on with Deshaun Watson and the disciplinary appeal? What do you got for me on that?
Well, we are still waiting for Peter Harvey to make his ruling. We will see if it gets there. The longer he waits, and look, I mean, there was supposed to be an expedited appeal. If the two sides reach a settlement, then there's no reason for – there's supposed to be an expedited ruling, I should say. If the two sides reach a settlement, there's no reason for him to rule. I mean, the NFL has made it clear they want a full year. Roger Goodell came out very publicly, I would say in somewhat uncharacteristic fashion, and stated that he wanted a year and why. Deshaun Watson has 6 games in his pocket right now from Judge Sue L. Robinson. So, there is a chance that the two sides end up meeting somewhere that's an acceptable place, and they have a settlement, which would mean, Deshaun gets suspended more than the 6 games. Potentially the league gets less than the year they want. Also means it's over, and it doesn't hang over the entire season. None of this is good. It's all been bad, but at least that's the best of a bad situation in just that it's over. So the longer it waits, the more likely it is a settlement happens, but we'll see if one actually does end up happening.
So there's a conversation between the Watson side and the Players Association together with the NFL to see if they can actually avoid a ruling coming down, which would then lead to potential legal action. That's neither side wants a legal action? Is that what you're saying right now?
Well, I mean, the league certainly doesn't. I mean, you remember what it was like. Yeah. Think about those game day mornings when we would be like, all right, well, Ezekiel Elliott is in, federal court. Like, nobody wants that.
Right.
Nobody wants to cut to Tom Pelissero standing in front of a federal courthouse in a suit, right? Nobody wants that. No offense to Tom, but he probably doesn't.
Or his tailor, Ian, or his tailor. You said in a suit, right.
Tom loves his tailor. Hammermade, I think, is his tailor. He puts it all over social media. Tom loves his tailor. I'll stick to Rick Soto, my tailor.
Oh, boy.
Tom loves his own.
Lots of run going on.
Who's your tailor, Rich?
I don't have one, Ian. I don't have one.
Wow. You don't have a personal guy?
Why?
Wow.
My Taylor is my daughter. That's what her name is. Hey. Her name is Taylor. Taylor.
That literally is your
That's
Taylor.
about it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But the league doesn't want that, and then the NFLPA and Deshaun Watson doesn't want that. Nobody wants to take the NFL to federal court. So if they can come with some sort of settlement, I think that would make some sense. I will say that.
Ian Rapoport here on the Rich Eisen Show. What is the story that's out there right now that actually with whether it is a quarterback competition or Zach Wilson, that will affect week one. That you feel with certainty is going to affect week one right now.
I mean, the Zach Wilson thing, that was Rich, I know you were going through it. That was a roller coaster.
You know I was going through it because you were literally the first person I texted when the news hit. I'm like, come on. Yes. I think those might be the 2 words I sent you. So
I think that was, yes.
Yes, you were the first.
I thought it might be, I think that was it. But, it's interesting because, like, if you look at it, I watched it hit a bunch, and I know you have two, not the hit, but the play a bunch. Non-contact, knee buckled, looked horrendous. Just looked terrible. And, everyone on Twitter is speculating, like, Jimmy G, he's out for, Zach's out for the season and everything bad. And then you dig into it a little bit, and everybody was like, well, hang on, it's not actually, like, we think the ACL is okay. And then I heard that there was a little, sort of a reoccurrence of his PCL, and I'm like, okay, well, that's not great, but not an ACL. So, and then it's like bone bruise, which is something, not nothing, and surgery, something, not nothing, but nothing that's going to keep him out for the season. So, like, might you have Joe Flacco for a game or no more? Like, you might, but he's going to play this season, which I think is a very good sign.
Okay, so you said it's possible week one, too? Is that what you said? Based on
I would say outside chance of week one. And it's judging something from a month from now or 3.5 weeks from now or whatever. Like, that's hard. So I would never want to do that because everyone is different. So I would say week one is still in play. He has a chance, but probably more of an outside chance.
And then why is Flacco being mentioned over Mike White? What can you tell about the inside of what the Jets might do if Wilson does need extra time? What do you got for me on that?
It seems that Joe Flacco has had a really good training camp. And, judging the comments from coaches and judging the play of someone in training camp is always difficult because every year there's someone or many someones who seem awesome and the season starts and you're like, remember we were talking about him? Like, there's always a couple of those. Seems that Joe Flacco has been really good. And I do not get the sense at all that the Jets are interested in Jimmy G. I do get the sense that it's going to be Joe Flacco if they need another quarterback, and they think he's going to be really good. And that whole thing is, I think, really, 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 really interesting to me.
Okay. And then staying in the AFC East, what is going on with the multiple play calling in New England? What's your sense of that, Ian Rapoport?
Now, this is a great storyline. I enjoy this storyline.
Oh.
I do, because it's peak Belichick. It's like it's an inner football thing that no one really understands, and he definitely understands a lot better than us. And, like, it doesn't really matter who the play caller is, like whether it's Joe Judge or Matt Patricia or Bill Belichick itself. Like, it's not going to really change anyone. It's not going to change my life, right? But it is really fun to discuss and try to figure out, so that's kind of where we are. I think the Patriots are still trying to figure out how it's going to work. But I know this. Joe Judge will be involved. Matt Patricia, who will do a lot of the run game stuff and is with the O-line, will be involved. Bill Belichick, who I think last year was heavy-handed in the defense, will be more heavy-handed in the offense this year. I expect that. And, like, there's been many years, as you know, when we've been like, oh, can you believe what's going on in the box score? Like, I can't believe they did this. And then they end up fine. I would assume this year, just like every other year, they'll end up fine.
This is just he just won't say what the process is. He says there is one, and he says it's too long to talk about. Is right. It's what he said in his recent press conference. Yeah, we don't have the time to get into it.
Whereas, like, you ask him on a Friday afternoon about, like, the evolution of the fullback, and he's like, cool, I'll give you 7 minutes on, like, the evolution of the fullback. It's one of my favorite Belichick.
It's true. You're not wrong. You've been there. You've done that, Ian. You've been part of that. You've been part of that fray. Okay.
When you're on the beat and you're like, okay, cool, I'll transcribe this last question and, send out to the other beat writers. You're like, great, I got the fullback question. Oh, this is going to be forever.
Ian Rapoport at Rap Sheet right here on the Rich Eisen Show. So Drew Lock getting COVID. That means it's going to be none other than Geno Smith taking on the Bears. which makes that an interesting scenario. How do you see this affecting the quarterback choice for Pete Carroll now in Seattle? And does Jimmy G at all somehow figure into this still? What do you got for me on that?
Let me get to the Jimmy G thing first.
Go for it.
Because everyone has been assuming that if Jimmy G gets cut, which, it seems to be the way it's headed. We'll see if there's an injury or something. That seems to be the way it's headed. Send them right to Seattle, right? That's what the 49ers don't want. Is they don't want Jimmy Garoppolo signing in Seattle. Okay, possible. Let's say you're Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's say you do get cut, and it's August
31st.
When's cut down day?
31st. Yeah,
right?
30th is the day of the day of reckoning. So he'd be free to look around that night, and then I just throw the 31st, first full day of freedom. Yes, for him. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, and you're more of a, I'm not one of punditry. How good do you think the Seahawks will be?
I think they're going to be a little bit better than people think. But I understand what you're going for. I'll bite. Right. Keep going. Keep going.
So let's assume that we don't know how good they are.
Yes.
Right? If you're Jimmy G and you say, all right, historically there are some quarterback injuries. Week 1, 2, 3. By week 4, someone will be injured. Might it make sense to just wait? Say, you know what? I'm just going to chill. And I'm going to jump on the biggest bandwagon I can find, and I'm going to be on the best team, and I'm going to take some teams to the playoffs. There is an argument to be had that is the best case scenario, because who cares how much money he makes this year? Whether it's 8 or 6, does it really matter? No. I mean, it would matter to me, but not to him. Waiting makes sense rather than say, all right, well, I'm just going to go to Seattle because I'll be the star. So there's at some point that will be a very interesting discussion, and I'm curious which way it goes.
And then what about the Seattle aspect of it? Is this now going to be Geno has the leg up because Drew Lock can't play in this game, do you think?
Yeah, and that's, all you really want, if you're Pete Carroll, all you really want is just a full and fair evaluation. And, COVID has sucked for 2 years, so, not total surprise that it continues to suck. But that is, that's too bad, because this was going to be his – it's going to be one start for Geno, one start for Drew Lock. And Drew Lock played with the ones in practice. Did not sound like it went very well. But he was going to start this game, and then a decision would be made. Could they have Drew Lock start week 3 and then make a decision? Definitely could. You got a long time between week 3 and the end of the season, or the beginning of the season. So that's possible, but it definitely throws a wrench in some plans. I'll say that.
What's the scoop with the Carolina quarterback situation? What do you got for me there, Ian Rapoport?
So the plan was to make a decision after New England joined practice in that game. So that would be, probably early next week. I mean, it seems the leg up is still to Baker Mayfield. I would be surprised at this point if he's not the starter. But you'd also like him to get out there and earn it. Now, when I was there in Carolina with Mike Garafolo, certainly Baker looked at that point like the better quarterback. So maybe that's the way it sort of stays. I don't know when they'll make a final decision, but I would expect that's going to be the eventual outcome.
So, because why? Because the sense for me is, why else do you trade for him? If Darnold's the guy, you saw him all last year, you saw him all minicamp, you saw him all May, and now you're going to. I mean, even though it was truly no skin off their nose, I mean, what is it, like a provisional draft choice 2 drafts from now, right? So the question is why wouldn't it be him? Certainly when they're playing Cleveland week 1. I mean, my word, why wouldn't you do that,
Yeah, I mean,
is that it?
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, I think, the sense I always got was if you knew Darnold was going to be the guy, then you would not give up draft capital. And, they, that thing took a while. And I thought it was going to happen during the draft. I mean, I had my tweets ready during day 3 of the draft.
I know. You're sitting up there in the Cosmopolitan or, up on your terrace. I remember that.
Tweets are all ready to rock. I'm good to go. I got everything written. It just never happened. And so it took forever. So, if Darnold was what they wanted in OTAs, I don't think they make the trade. So, I would say that's probably – and I think it's overall understanding of the offense, its ability to make big plays. Darnold makes a lot of mistakes. I would imagine you probably know this, but there are times that he'll throw something and you're like, how? How does that happen? And so I think Baker will be more secure and kind of settled with a little more upside.
All right, and then last one for you, since you were just mentioned the draft right there, Ian Rapoport. Now you had the tweets about Mayfield being traded all set, and that never happened. And going into that week, it was Debo mania, right? It was going to be like, was he going to get traded because he's demanded one, and part of his reason
Did you
why.
know that Debo was in Vegas?
I heard that story from you, right? I mean, he was there, huh? He was.
Yeah. So we heard that he was there kind of hanging out.
Right.
And so I sent one of our producers to go down and be like, hey, see if he'll do an interview. And he was like, tell you I say hi, but no. Which I thought was pretty funny. And so he declined but was just there hanging out. We were talking about him for a week. But anyway, go ahead.
No, so isn't it amazing how that all got taken care of, and it just turned out to be money, I guess, and Lance is the guy there? What are you hearing out of 49ers camp now that it's actually quiet there on that front?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting that we spent all the time talking about role, and I know the 49ers have downplayed that. Like, my understanding is that was pretty real, and the fact that they're going to use him as a receiver while also sprinkling in some carries, like as a receiver, emphasis on that. Like, I think that's a good thing, and that helped the deal. I think had he been happy all the way, we would have avoided all of this. So there was definitely,
right.
He definitely wanted to be traded at some point. So, I can't pretend that none of that happened. But I do think it'll be sort of in a better place going forward. As far as Trey Lance, the reports out of camp have been okay. It doesn't sound like he's had the greatest camp. It sounds like he's made a lot of wow plays and had some inaccuracy. So that's probably what it's going to be. I mean, if he's completing near 50% of his passes, but with some really good runs and some big pass plays, I'll be like, okay, that's kind of like what I expect. What you want is just you want him to give you some explosive plays, a little more than Jimmy G gave you, even though Jimmy G took him to 2 conference title games. So it's going to be interesting. He's sort of been up and down, but I'd say at the beginning, at least, that's probably to be expected.
And he's week 1 in Chicago. Is he going to have to deal with Roquan Smith on the other side of the ball, do you think?
We shall see. That's certainly a fascinating situation for a lot of different reasons. I know the Bears would still like to get a deal done. Roquan in his letter, really left it open as far as, if the owner steps in, we could probably do this. So we'll see if something ends up getting done. I think it's possible, but, and it would be expensive, but kind of player he is. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
All right. I know I said one last one, but you're too good. I got one last one for you. Just give me a couple minutes on this one, Ian Rapoport, because everybody's talking about Aaron Rodgers calling out his young receivers. What are you hearing out of Green Bay that's maybe concerning or enough to raise Rodgers' level of concern to do something he rarely does, which is air his concerns publicly? What do you got for me on that front?
Yeah, I mean, there's some times when, something will happen in the media, and they're kind of like, we're making too much of this. This seems to be a thing, right? Aaron Rodgers does not do anything by accident. He doesn't do anything he doesn't, slip and just be like, oops. It's think about how many years we spent analyzing his words about his future and what's going to, he is a smart guy who means what he says, basically. So I think it needs to be a little better. And, now that we know he's sort of on the same page with the front office, what do we read into it? Is this him saying, you need to be better or else? Is this him calling attention to, let's make sure we're kind of up to snuff? I don't know, but definitely not nothing, and definitely going to keep all eyes on the receivers for the next 2.5 weeks.
Ian, thanks very much. Safe travels. Let's do this again. Greatly appreciate it. I do hope to see you soon, man. You be well.
All right. Sounds good, Rich. Always enjoy, man. Take
there you
care.
Go. That right back at you. That's Ian Rapoport at Rap Sheet here on the program. He gone. He doesn't want to talk to a Yankee fan.